Hey Jess, I wanted to show you what I'm thinking right now for the presentation, but I have some animations and stuff in here, so I thought it might be easiest for me to show you um, just by walking you through in a video. So I still need to work through my intro, but my purpose is to persuade my audience that they should be investing more into their retirement accounts. This was a slight change from what I initially thought, but the data that I got from the survey, I think this was a better path to go down. So I asked my audience, what will you do with a bonus or a random influx of cash? And everybody went back and brainstormed their to-do lists. And it turns out roughly two-thirds of the audience would pay off loans prior to investing. So when I looked into that, the thought process is debt is generally viewed in a very negative light. Words to describe it were burdensome and irresponsible. And I want to explain how good debt can be something that's actually a powerful tool and an opportunity, whereas bad debt can kill you, and that's what really gives debt a bad rep. So good debt are things like mortgages, auto loans, and student loans. These have, relatively speaking, lower interest rates, and that's really what you guys in the audience have. More than half of you guys have mortgages, more than half of you guys have auto loans. The bad debt that really gives it a bad rep is credit card debt, personal loans that you go take for a short period of time. And payday loans are just absurd. We're not going to even bother talking about those here. So if you do have bad debt, then absolutely agreed. That's where you should be focusing any new income that you get. But most of this engineering management type of audience is focused on the left side, and this debt is actually something that can be really beneficial. If you look at these interest rates and compare them to investing in the open market, S&P performance is typically higher. There's one blip in here from a 20-year performance that includes a global pandemic and a global recession that is less than student loans, but it still outperforms the auto loans and mortgages that are dominating what you guys have. So if you get a random influx of cash, it's often more likely that the that investing will outperform paying off your existing debts. So looking at that to-do list, I'm thinking we've scratched off pay off loans. And moving down, more than or roughly two-thirds of the audience had savings as something that was above investing as well. So looking at that same performance of what investing can do and comparing that to what savings accounts can do, there's really not a comparison. So if you find a good bank, like I have a really good one that my work has hooked me up with, they give me a 2.5% annual interest rate, but that's still nowhere near what investing can do. And the average savings rate is much worse. So there's, generally speaking, this is not the smartest way to help your money help you. Um, so hopefully we put savings off the list. Splurge was another one I asked about, and apparently I don't need to convince you guys not to splurge. Maybe this is something we should all try to do a little more of. But I'm hoping that now I can, when we talk about investing in retirement, push it so that everyone starts moving this up their chain. So if you're thinking about investing in retirement, then there are a couple tools that are really helpful for that. So one is a 401k, and it seems to be something that most of you guys are using, though only 20% of the audience is maxing out their 401ks. So this is an area that we could potentially be investing further into. And IRAs are another tool that less than half of the audience is using and no one is maxing out. So to quickly explain what these things are, um, normal investing, you have your income taxed as you'd always do. That includes whatever you're going to invest. And then what you earn off your investment also gets taxed. Traditional IRAs and traditional 401ks, that first investment is what ends up not being taxed. So if you end up investing 10% of your salary and you have a 40% tax rate, then you're essentially giving yourself a 4% raise just by investing through this channel. Roth, which you can do in 401ks and IRAs, focuses on the capital gain side. So what you put in is still taxed, but the end result, you can avoid that 15% capital gains tax when you go to pull it out many years down the road. So these are a couple of really good, helpful tools that we're currently underutilizing, but there's a lot of potential there. So part of why investing is so impactful is looking at compound interest. So for this exercise, we're going to assume that you're investing $6,000 per year and the annual return is 8.8%, which is the 30-year average over or the past 30 years. So in your first year, you're making $500 off of $6,000. But the power of this is really coming from stacking those years. So after 5 years, you can see that the chunk associated with what you've earned compared to what you've invested is growing. And if you really look at it from a retirement perspective and push all the way out to, say, 30 years, you're really letting your money work for you. And what you've invested now represents only like a third to a quarter of your actual worth there. So I need to work on my closing still, but essentially this is going to help you retire. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if it's too busy or if this is making sense to you. Any feedback that you have, I'd greatly appreciate it. So thanks.